Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, Asian Fusion, combining our South Asia adventures. Presented by NatHab expedition leaders Payal Mehta and Harsha Jayaramaiah. I'm your host, Rob Bess. Thank you so much for being here today. Take it away, you guys.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. And a very, very warm welcome to all of you who've showed up and always show up so that we have an opportunity to present to all of you. I am Payal, like Rob introduced me, and
I am Harsha.
with us today, we also have another member who you might hear but not see, who's our dog, who's around in the same room as us. And if you hear her barking, please don't get disturbed by it and please don't mind it. Today's webinar, like you may have already read, is a slightly different, unusual kind of webinar where we are not talking about wildlife or natural history, but we are talking about trips and trips that combine well when you plan your travels in Asia. We have seen in the last few years, especially in the last couple of years after COVID, where we are seeing increasing number of guests who are actually opting to combine their trips when they plan their travels to Asia. And it makes complete sense, right? Why not? A lot of our guests who travel, our NatHab guests who travel to Asia, usually fly more than 24 hours. They have spent hours preparing for these trips. Sometimes visa processes can be difficult. And they fly eventually, they travel 6 to 8,000 miles before they get to this part of the world. So it makes complete sense that if they're making this effort, they try and combine one or two or more trips. And besides that, Asia as a region is just so absolutely diverse, and there's so much to see in terms of wildlife, so much to experience in terms of food, culture, so much to learn about its history and religious practices and beliefs and myths and whatnot, that all of these reasons combined, it makes total sense why it is so popular. And we thought that we'd take this topic up.
So, Pyle and we both lead trips to many parts of Asia. And if we zoom in here, we are talking about Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia. Let's go further in, and here you can see, uh, of course, India and the whole of Himalayas, which is very long from west to east here. So we both lead trips in and below of Himalayas, and we would like to share our view in which we think the trips can blend very nicely. Yeah. So in this South Asia, these are the countries we are highlighting. This is where we guide. You can see in the Himalayas, Nepal and Bhutan, of course, India, down below the Sri Lanka, and to the extreme right, Borneo. So quite a vary of landscape. The South Asia, and to the east, what we call Malayan archipelago. Very interesting landscape. And in these countries, NatHab runs various interesting trips, and which we would like to share on this, where we are combining a couple of trips together and presenting to you.
Yeah. A lot of these trips make very interesting combinations, like Harsha said, but they also sometimes make a lot of practical sense. And we are going to sort of come to you and present sort of our favorite combinations. So let's get started. The first one we want to talk to you about, we are calling it Mad About Mountains. The name says it all. If you are someone who loves mountains, the combination that we are going to present to you is going to take you to paradise. And this is not just about any mountains. Like Harsha pointed out earlier, we are talking about the Himalayas, which is a really special mountain range in not just being one of the youngest, but it is the highest mountain range in the world. The Himalayas are such a big mountain range, it sort of passes through 6 different countries. And NatHab has trips in 3 out of those 6 countries, right? Which is this part of India. We hope you can see our cursor, Nepal, right here, and tiny little Bhutan over here. Looking for the critically endangered one-horned rhinoceros, trekking to the tiger's nest, spending time looking for the most elusive big cat in the world, the snow leopard. These are just 3 of the many interesting experiences one can have on this trip, right? So these are a combination of 2 trips which make the Mad About Mountains. It is the Nepal and Bhutan trip. In Nepal, you visit the Chitwan National Park and do safaris there. You have time to explore Kathmandu for a little bit. From there, you fly to Bhutan and visit the western part of Bhutan through 3 different areas called Thimphu, Punakha, and Paro. It's a lovely 12 to 14-day trip, depends on whether you choose the classic or the photo option. And combine that of the Himalayas with the snow leopard trip, which takes you from Delhi, a quick stop in Delhi, straight to Ladakh, a very interesting area of the Himalayas called the Trans Himalayas. And over here, you spend all of your time looking for wildlife and learning about this westernmost part of the Himalayas. Now, besides just the love of mountains, the reason why this trip also works really, really well is the diversity of the Himalayas. It's like Himalaya intensive, right? You're getting to learn about the Himalayas, the wildlife, the culture, various things, and also how it changes from the west to the east. Also, one of the reasons which we think is extremely important why this makes a lot of sense is acclimatization, especially if you do the Nepal Bhutan trip first, because there you slowly gain in altitude, and the Nepal Bhutan trip ends with the hike to the tiger's nest, which is at 10,000 feet, right? And that makes you perfectly acclimatized for the snow leopard trip, which entirely happens at very high altitude, 11,000 and above. And this, from personal experience, is a fantastic way to do these trips. Yeah, you're never in that gear, that's just a joke. Also, overlapping clothing requirements, right? You're in cold areas, and a lot of the gear that you'll be packing will be the same for both trips, which is just a great convenience for someone who's doing the long travels. And also a very lovely mix of activities. So, from safari in Chitwan, looking for wildlife in the plains in and foothills of the Himalayas, and then doing lovely walks and hikes and looking at culture, birds and wildflowers when you're in Bhutan. And then, of course, a very different way of viewing wildlife in high altitude Himalayas for snow leopards, where you're doing easy walks, though they are tough because they are at high altitude, and also just drive around countryside to look for very, very special wildlife, snow leopard, and others. So all of these mix of experiences and the fact that you're spending almost every day of these trips in the mountains, works fantastic for someone who would be in love with them. And this combination is possible all the way from November through April, November, December, January, February, March, April, giving you umpteen opportunities to look at this combination if you're thinking about any one of these trips. So that's about Mad About Mountains.
Do have to say anything about this? Not enough tigers. This trip is for someone who really, really loves tiger and dreamt of seeing and spending a lot of time looking for them in the natural habitat and coming all the way here. This combo works great because we have two trips happening where you have great chances of seeing tiger multiple times on the trip. And we actually had guests who really love tigers, do many safaris,
Yeah.
and combining these two trips for better chances. Uh, this is two great trips. One is called Grand India, which is, as you can see, it's 13 days where we visit three different national parks, two in central India, mainly to get more chances of tiger. However, not just tigers, but other wildlife and different culture, the landscape, and from there we go to eastern part of India to Assam, where the famous national park called Kaziranga National Park, where you get to see the rhinoceros, Indian Asian one-horned rhinoceros, elephants, and also chance of seeing tiger. And the second trip which you combine is Tiger Quest, where we go to just one park and either you spend 4 nights there or the other one is Photo Pro Expedition where you spend 7 nights and do many safaris. Mainly for tigers, of course, the chance of seeing other wildlife like sloth bear or a leopard. Um, so there are high chances of seeing multiple times of tiger in one trip, and here not just tigers in one place, but many different landscape. So this is a great combo for people who love tigers, and you don't have once you're in India, you don't have to go through the immigration again and again, where you might some of you might have little challenging to get the visa. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. And it's the same gear for the whole trip in these two trips, the safari gear. And we'll be visiting four different national parks. And like I said before, it takes you from the westernmost part of India, which is almost very dry desert, to central India to eastern part, which is swampy grassland. However, in this trip is only in March and April, which is our just getting start to dry. It's not hot yet. It's comfortable, cooler in the morning, just getting warmer during the day, and this is when the forest starts to dry, and you have a great opportunity for photography as well. So this is a great tiger photo trip for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful combination. But what if you are not just about tigers, but you'd love to see various types of big cats? To all of you over there who are interested in a trip like that or a combination of trips like that, let me tell you that India, just one country, is home to four of the five big cats of the world. So we have the Asiatic lion, the leopard, the snow leopard, and the tiger. And if you do this combination of trips that we are just going to talk about, you have a chance of seeing the snow leopard, tiger, as well as a chance of seeing the leopard. Right? And so, what are these two trips? Basically, you are doing these two trips, the snow leopard quest and the tiger quest. You already been introduced to both of these, but look at how this combination works. It's basically for someone who also likes less to be on the move, right? So there are minimum destinations here, but you are seeing two very contrasting places with very different habitats. A jungle over here for the tigers, and up here you're in the high altitude cold desert looking for the snow leopards. And when you combine these two, you have it's what did we call it? Minimum travel, maximum chances, right? So that's this kind of combination, and it works well. Again, once again, one single immigration, you get into India and that's it, and then you travel to these two main national parks, right? The Ranthambore National Park for tigers and the Hemis National Park for the snow leopard. And this combination of the hot and cold desert of India just automatically brings in a really stark diversity in what you're going to experience in weather, in the features of the people, in the food they eat, in their beliefs and religion, in their lifestyle. It's so diverse, you could practically have visited two different planets. It's that different, just as from a travel and experience perspective. Of course, which also means that you'll be packing into very different kinds of sort of packing list, but such few destinations that there's minimum packing, unpacking to be done during the trip, right? And both these trips, sort of the base is Delhi, and you can easily leave one set of sort of cold gear behind when you go to the tigers, or leave your summer gear behind when you go to the snow leopards, and be reunited with your bags back in Delhi, right? But again, a very interesting combination of trips. And just like Harsha's previous combination, it's a very, very short window. It's only late March to April is when this combination can happen, right? So, with that, moving on to the next one.
We named it Big Four, Medium, and Small. You can see the Big Four on this trip. This is a two-trip combination, which we both have spoken separately. But on this trip, the high chances of seeing the elephant. Of course, we will see rhinoceros. Fantastic chance of snow leopard and the tiger. Apart from that, not just the big, but all the smaller creatures, which we see. Then this is the combination of the snow leopard trip, which we already discussed. And on the snow leopard trip, we've been talking only about snow leopard. Of course, that's what you want. Everybody like to see, but there are other creatures which are unique. The special mountain goats, the ibex, the small pikas, the weasels, and the great wildlife, bird life especially. And from there, the Grand India, which I spoke earlier, where we visit different national parks, you have chances of not just the tiger, the leopard, sloth bear, wild dogs, of course, the gaur, which is the Indian bovine, elephants, rhinos, many species of deer, and the primates, the monkey species, and India's only ape, the gibbon. And in these two trips, not to mention the bird life is fantastic, rich in culture. It's very similar to some of the other trips where in one trip it's intense, it's on the move, but in the snow leopard you're just going to one destination. However, like Payal said, this also involves in different packing lists, one for the cold weather and one for the warm only because this trip runs actually pretty long. I'll come to that. Again, combination of routed trip, one place, and on the move. Very different wildlife viewing experience because in one trip you are driving a lot. Driving a lot meaning mainly jeep safaris, and in snow leopard trip we are not doing hardly much of driving. It's going to a location, scanning, and looking for the snow leopard. Uh, this trips actually has a bigger window. It's you can try to combine these two trips from November to April. So it's a very big window, many months. Yeah.
Now, we've spoken a lot already about the various India trips, including both the tiger, snow leopard, and also how some of them combine well with the Nepal and Bhutan. Now we're talking to guests who are the kind of people who will never leave a chance and find every single opportunity to get away to live the tropical life. And in this combination, we are introducing to you another country, a country that is small, known for its tea, drinking tea, and the largest cat in this country is the leopard. It doesn't have the tiger or the snow leopard or the lion, right? And this country is Sri Lanka, also previously called Ceylon. A beautiful country right here, just here at the south of India, just south of there. It's an island country. And as you know by now, that all of our India trips start and end in Delhi, right? And from Delhi to Colombo, which is the international airport in Sri Lanka, it's a direct 3.5 hour flight. A perfect, smooth, easy segue into your next trip, right? And these two trips, again, any of the India trips combine really well with Sri Lanka, but my favorite, especially our favorite actually, would be a lovely combination of Sri Lanka with Grand India. Again, it has a fairly decent window, we'll come to that, but this is a trip, a combination of trips for guests who not just love the tropics, but also like the, on the move, quickly go from one destination to the other, keep looking for, at new places, looking for new experiences. This is a perfect trip for guests like that. Let's see again how they mix together, because Grand India is, like Harsha was saying, is a safari intensive trips, right? You're doing a lot of jeep safaris in various national parks. Sri Lanka, while you do safari and visit one of the national parks, you're also doing a lot of other activities. Actually, there are two safaris you do for elephants, as well as you go to the leopard park here in Yala. But also there's other stuff on the way, where from visiting tea gardens and cinnamon plantations to going to high altitude national parks where you're looking for different kinds of primates, you're doing hikes and walks, you're visiting temples, you're also visiting the coast, right, to experience sort of tidal life, and also going out into the sea to look for the whales, right? So it's a very, very interesting combination of experiencing tropical Asia. And again, Sri Lanka in itself is a special place because in this little country, you have an opportunity of seeing the largest land mammal as well as the largest marine mammals. And on our trip, we try to look for both, right? Besides leopards and all the other, from little lizards to whatnot. So yeah, that's another interesting combination for the tropics.
Yeah. So let's talk about how to have the most impressive checklist at the end of the NATAP travel. Uh, Visit to the land of orangutan, Borneo. And if you ask me, if you're coming to Asia, South and Southeast Asia, and if you want to combine two countries, this is one of my favorite, because the Borneo trip can be sometimes, not sometimes, it is intense wildlife trip. We are constantly looking for wildlife from big to small, and from forest floor to high up in the canopy. And if you want to add more wildlife checklist, take more species, you can combine with Grand India trip. Again, you're visiting different national parks, or if you want completely tropical experience, sea level, warm, humid, and then have a different contrast, you can do snow leopard trip. And also, if you had enough of intense wildlife trip with Borneo, you can also go to Nepal Bhutan trip in the mountains again to have a peaceful culture, nature, landscape trip. So it's a great combination. And Borneo is such a great place which has so much high endemism in all kinds of creature. You need many webinars to cover it. From amazing Bornean sun bear, it's a land of orangutan, of course, different primates, the proboscis monkey, and bird life is fantastic. So, and like we've been talking about safaris in India. If you combine this trip, imagine if you're combining with Grand India or any of the tiger trips where you're doing the jeep safaris.
Yeah.
You come to Borneo and you do have a different experience in viewing wildlife. That is, from the boat, we go on the river Kinabatangan to look for orangutans, pygmy elephants, and other creatures, and we do walk on the uh, oldest tropical rainforest in the world, which is in Borneo, and go on the canopy walks too. So, what an experience! Different kind of experience you can have in this combo. And uh, also, if you look at it, imagine if you have time and you come all the way flying, traveling more than 24 hours or 30 hours, and you're in this part of the world. To make the most of it, you can do India, South Asia, Nepal, Bhutan, India, Sri Lanka, and combine with Borneo, and it's well connected. In between, there is Singapore and Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok, Thailand. All these places are the stop to go to Borneo or from Borneo to India. We had guests who traveled from India, took a break in Singapore for a few days or Kuala Lumpur and went to Borneo or vice versa. You can get in touch with your adventure specialist at MATAB. They will really help you to plan either if you're doing this combo of Borneo and India, South Asia, which is the best flight. And you have international flights to directly from your home coming to Singapore or Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, and like look, these are the same things we spoke about it. And interestingly, it's open from February to June, so you can actually combine this trip with many other South Asia trips. Yeah.
Yeah, and in one of the ways we were just thinking about it when Harsha and I were talking about these combinations, that Borneo fits so well with the India summer trips because it can be a light traveler's delight, right? You can pack a really small bag with just summer clothing because it's warm in India and warm and humid in Borneo.
Borneo.
All you need is a little bag, and you can do weeks of travel and have like amazing experiences through there. Unless, of course, like Harsha was saying, if you combine it with the snow leopard trip, you will be having a rather bulky
Bags. Luggage.
bags, but it'll still be
Worth it.
yeah, an experience well worth it. So these are just a few examples of how various trips in our part of the world combine, and we mainly spoke about the trips that Harsha and I guide and are well versed with. And just to tell you, while you're browsing through the website on NatHab, we've just done a little screenshot of the snow leopard trip. And if you go to the dates, prices, and info sort of tab, you'll see that the dates of that trip show up. And on the side, there are already suggestions of which other trip the snow leopard trip in this case pairs with, right? So whether it is a Grand India trip or a Sri Lanka or a Nepal, Bhutan, it already gives you suggestions. However, you don't need to limit yourself just to this. For example, like we said, a lot of these trips also pair well with Borneo. And similarly, they also pair well with trips that Harsha and I don't lead. But for example, China, Australia
New
and
Zealand.
New Zealand, and they all make sense, travel and flight wise, if you want to combine with any of the trips here.
And if you have a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of time, if you don't want to do just two trips, I mean, we just spoke of pairing trips, but you could well do two or three or four trips. In fact, the news is that one of our guests at NatHab, have recently booked 6 trips back to back. I'm very happily, pleasantly jealous to hear that, to be able to travel like this. But why not? It makes complete sense, right? Travel, after all, is celebration of life, and if you can combine with ease multiple different experiences, then why not? So think about it. We thought it was great fun, even different ELs, expedition leaders, meeting guests who've sort of done trips that we lead otherwise, or have, traveled with our friends who are colleagues and sort of expedition leaders. And it's great fun to sort of see what you've learned and sort of have conversations. So yeah, if do look into this, because we are waiting here and looking forward to welcome you no matter what combinations you choose.
And just to add, all this, some of you already gone through the website might have seen this pairing, uh, which means here we don't have NatHab doesn't have to plan from the beginning if you want to combine. It's already planned for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it works really well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it from us. We just want to do a little short presentation to open up this opportunity of the Asian fusion. And if you have any questions, I think we are now ready to take them.
All right, thank you both so much. Now that before we start in with questions, I would like to remind everyone that if you do have some questions, feel free to submit them via the question field in your control panel. All right, let's get to some of these questions. Let's just talk about safety in general, for instance. How safe am I on an average NatHab trip?
Very, very, very safe. We take safety very, very seriously. Not only are every single expedition leader certified with first aid and CPR, we also have extremely good facilities on ground to be able to contact local doctors. And besides that, we also have the VHS emergency line with which we are able to contact, diagnose any issues, if at all, and sort of make sure you get the best line of treatment thereon.
Yeah, having said
Yeah.
that if anything happens, but our trips are so well planned that we try to take any kind of risk, means unnecessary risk. It's all well planned and it's all
Yeah, all
uh,
precautions are
precautions are
taken.
taken.
Yeah,
So it's pretty safe.
yeah.
All right, great to know. So, now if I wanted to see Band Havgar and Kabini, is that something I could possibly do with NatHab?
Can you repeat the two names, please?
Band Havgar and Bahini. I may not be saying them right. Kabini?
Bandhavgarh
Bandhavgarh?
and Kabini.
Yes.
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 Thank you
So
for my.
Bandhavgarh, no problem. It's a tongue twister for us also. Bandhavgarh, the first park you mentioned, we do go there and stay for 3 nights on Grand India trip. All right. And Kabini is in South India, where the NatHab doesn't have any trip. But I'm sure if you are doing one of the NatHab trips, pre-extension or the post-extension, if you request, NatHab might put you on to the local tour operator to help you out. You need to check with them.
Yes.
Yeah, but Bandhavgarh we do go.
Yeah.
Yeah, great place to see tiger.
3 nights in the Grand India trip.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So, how many guests are usually on each of NatHab's trips out in Asia?
Good question. So it slightly varies, but about maximum 11 in trips like Nepal, Bhutan, or Grand India,
Or Borneo.
or Borneo. But the India summer trip, not more than 6. And then you have the
Snow
snow leopard. I don't quite remember right now, but I think it is 6
Eight.
to 8 or 10, depending on whether you're doing the photo pro or the classic itinerary.
Thank you. So, do I have any chance of seeing a Black Panther? And if so, what trip would help me see that one?
Yeah. So Black panther is basically a leopard with melanistic sort of pigmentation, which makes a regular yellow leopard look that dark. They can actually occur anywhere, right? They can show up in any park, anytime. Uh, However, currently, Kabini is the park where a black leopard is around and being seen. But right now, NatHab is not doing a trip there. But like someone previously asked, you can plan a post extension or a pre extension if you plan a NatHab trip, and we can help you with that. And
And the Black Panther, means black leopard in India, became famous of Kabini, of one individual, and
yeah,
he is very, very old. Unfortunately, he's been seen not so frequently. So I
anymore.
hope whoever is planning plan soon and go, but his frequency has reduced.
Yeah.
Another park in central India also, but right now the parks where Natab goes, there's not been Black Panther or Black Leopard has not been seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if I was to come on a trip, what are the chances that I would get one of the two of you to lead it for me?
We are a big team in Asia. We are about 15 of us. So the chance is 1 in 15, 1 in 15.
And
Um,
everybody are equally good.
and everybody's fantastic. Really, really good. So, yeah, please do plan a trip and don't let the choice of EL be the limitation.
How many guides are usually on each trip?
Just one main EL on all of these trips, but there is little difference. So if the Bhutan part of the trip, we have a second EL, a local EL who joins us, and the same is true for Borneo end to end. Borneo end to end, there will be one main NatHab EL and another local leader as well, and two of them sort of co-guide the trip in Borneo. And in all the other trips, be it the snow leopard, be it the India summer trip or the Grand India, though the EL is just one, but at each destination, there are local guides who sort of help us and who we work with, and they are all just absolutely excellent. And we probably wouldn't be able to run the trip as well as we do if it was not for them.
Great, thank you. So, do you have any particular sighting of a rare animal that is your favorite memory that you could share with us?
Oh, they're
Snow
quite,
leopard,
yeah,
shall we?
yeah.
So we will tell you a story of our first snow leopard sighting, maybe just because it's two of us over here. So where Harsha and I went to Recce to look for snow leopards, and this was 10 years before today, over 10 years before today. And we went driving, and having been naturalists in the jungles, where we had operated for years guiding in thick forests and, looking for wildlife through bushes and trees. And then suddenly we found ourselves exploring the Trans Himalayas, the land of the snow leopard, which is which appears to be absolutely barren, right? And the landscape is so vast that we didn't even know, our eyes and our brains and our ears didn't know where to start looking to look for wildlife.
It was first time for us, so we
Yeah,
had no clue.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And this is the time where actually now the Natab guests are very lucky. This is the time where we're camping
Yeah.
in minus 20 degrees and no running water. We didn't have bath for days and no proper washroom facility, all in the wild. But now things have changed. However, coming back to that, we were driving and in a small valley in the frozen river, Payal said, if not here in this frozen river, where else we see snow leopard? She completed the sentence and she screamed, snow leopard, snow leopard, snow leopard. In the moving vehicle, she spotted a snow leopard. We got off quickly. just two of us and a driver. And snow leopard had disappeared. We are trying to search, and finally, I said, "Hey, there is snow leopard walking." Payal said, "No, the snow leopard is sitting." So actually, we are looking at two different snow leopards. So that was one of the fantastic and more memorable sighting for us.
Yeah, it was the rarest cat. And in fact, Rob and us were discussing just before the webinar started that just 10, 12 years ago, it was so hard to see a snow leopard. The conditions were so difficult. You are wearing layers of clothing, crawling in and out of tents which are not heated, and sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. To now, in the same valley, we are going back with NatHab in a beautiful lodge, centrally heated, hot running water, bathrooms with a flush. This was unimaginable, unheard of, just literally a decade ago. So it has evolved beautifully. It has brought back a lot of benefits to the landscape, to the people, and just allowing for opportunities for various different types of travelers to come and take a chance to experience this landscape. It is so beautiful. Everywhere you look, it's a postcard picture. And yeah,
The
and
snow leopard trip is about special. Yeah.
yeah, it's super special. Thank you for asking this question. We really enjoyed sharing the story.
And we loved hearing it, so thank you so much for sharing. Unfortunately, that will be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you guys for any closing comments you may have for us.
No, I just want to say thank you. Harsha, do you have?
Yeah, it's just that when you're coming all the way here, don't just do one trip unless you don't have time and you want to go back. Try this combination, and we really hope you have fantastic time exploring this part of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Payal, Harsha, thank you both so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd like to
Pleasure.
thank everyone who tuned in today. Now, if you're interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, please give us a call at the number on your screen or send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us Monday for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out next week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude today's webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.